All right, what's going on, everybody? It is time to release the Fishgistics World Trophy Truck rankings. Now, I know a lot of you guys have been asking about these since everybody first found out that we were going to do them, and it's been quite a bit of work trying to get them figured out and figure out the most fair and accurate way to do them. This was Dave Cole's idea initially to do this list, and I've wanted to do it for a while, something like this. I thought it'd be kind of cool, as I know a lot of the other sports, like golf has world rankings, and, even like NASCAR and everywhere else, and even the NFL has rankings. They all have rankings that are based off of some data, at least, and a little bit of opinion. So I wanted this list to be based off of data, obviously not necessarily opinion. So we tried to do that the best we could. Basically what it is, it's not a favorites list. It's not who do you think is the best driver. It is a ranking based on what people's results are at races of the best in the desert and the score series only. So we just did best in the desert and we just did score. We combined them all on one list to make our own overall rankings list. So with that being said, let's go ahead and bring it up over here and show you guys. So we have, here's the list, the moment of truth that everybody's been waiting for. So as you can see, we have Andy McMillan is number 1 on this list. Number 2 on the list is Rob McCachran. Number 3 is Jason Voss. And number 4 is Troy Herbst. Justin Matney is number 5. And down the list, I'll leave this up for a few minutes so you guys can check it out. I'll just explain about it a little way that explain it a little bit to you guys. So basically, what we did when you look at the back end data sheet, I'll show you guys real quick. So the back end data sheet, we took a race of the last 3 years. We started at Parker, 2016 Parker. We ranked it. We went in the starters. So the starters were 44. What we did is we gave the winner position, who happened to be Justin Matney that year, he got 44 points. So that was the most position points that were awarded in that race. It went based off of the starters. Then we did all the way down to the last finisher, which in this race, there was 24 finishers. So it went minus 1 point for each position all the way down. So the final finisher, 24th, got 21 position points. So and then to get the start points for people who DNF'd, we did half of the final finisher point. So the final person to finish in Parker in 2016 got 21 points. So everybody that started the race but DNF'd got half of those points. So they still got some credit for doing the race even though they didn't finish. Now, the tricky part was when we came to do this power factor on each race. So this was the hard part, and this was the part where we had the most discussion between us and tried to make it the same, tried to make it fair. So basically, the amount of points, well, here, I'll show you this too. So this is our podium position. So for first place, we awarded a 20% bonus on points. Second place, 15%. Third place, 5%. So you really get a bonus for being on the podium, which honestly, I feel if you're on the podium, you really should get a bonus because you really have to earn it. Remember, this is only trophy trucks. And we are talking about the best of the best in these races. So if you got on the podium, you get a bonus. And who can really argue with that? So that's what these are here. So this is the amount that was added. So for instance, Justin Matney got first place. He got 44 position points. He got 10.5 start points. And then he got 8.8 points for winning for his 20% bonus. So his total points ended up at 50.64. That was after we factored in the power. It gets kind of confusing, and I'm trying to explain it the easiest we can. Basically, so look here, 2016 San Felipe 250. There was only 11 starters that raced that race, and there was only 5 that finished it. So the maximum points anybody got for that race was 13.36. That was for the winner. But really, there's only 11 cars versus 44. So you can see the difference. I mean, there's 4 times as many people in Parker, and Parker is about almost double the mileage of the San Felipe race. So it was hard to get all these points to add up. So then the Mint, if you look at the Mint, this one really threw us off also. So there's a lot of starters at the Mint. However, the Mint isn't really a hard race. It's a hard race against the people you're racing against because of how many people show up. But the race course is really not that hard. You know, you don't get a lot of finishers because people are driving 110%. So where do you rank the Mint? Well, to me, the Mint ranks pretty close to Parker, honestly. So you can see, if we go back at Parker, the winner got 50 points, and then the winner at the Mint this year got 51 points. So almost the same amount of points for winning either race, which really there was 46 cars at the Mint and 44 cars at Parker. So it's really pretty close to the same race. They're both, you know, the Parker is actually 425 miles. The Mint 400 is not 400 miles. It's only 300 and some miles. So we deducted a little bit on the power for that. So that's how we came up with the points. So then if the biggest difference is if you go to the Baja 1000. So we go to the 2016 Baja 1000. You can see the winner of the Baja 1000 got 72 points. Well, that was because the Baja 1000 is a much longer race. This year the race was 800 or 900 miles in 2016. So that's really twice as long as any other race. So if you get 50 points for racing the Mint for winning or the Parker race, you're not going to get double for the Baja 1000. So we did about 25% more, which I think everybody can agree that winning the Baja 1000 is worth about 25% more at least than winning the Mint or winning Parker. So that's how we came up with those points. The biggest factor was the 2017 Baja 1000. Now this one, if you remember, 2017, that was last year. This was a peninsula run. So this year it was 1,300 miles almost. It went all the way down. So 1,300 miles, the Baja 1000, that's a pretty gnarly race. So we bumped up the power factor a little bit more, and the winner on that one got 87 points. I mean, I don't think anybody's really going to argue, but if you can, let's hear it. You know, this is where I said this is where the opinion part comes in on the list. Other than that, all of this part here is strictly based off results. So if we go back and look at the list again, for you guys that just joined us, so you can see Andy McMillan is number 1 with 628 points. This is really close. So then Rob Mack is second with 622 points. So literally, you know, he's 6 points difference between the two of them. I mean, 6 points when we're talking about 620 points, that's like nothing. So this is very close. Even Jason Voss is 608 points. So somebody might say, when you look over here, well, Jason Voss is podium percentage is higher than Andy McMillan. Why is he ranked lower? And his win percentage is higher than Andy McMillan too. But look over here. His finish percentage is lower than Andy McMillan. Also, Jason Voss, his win percentage is higher, but he also does races like Pahrump and Silver State and wins those races when there's not as many people there. You know, there might be 12, 15 cars at those with not as much competition. So I feel like they're not ranked as high. They shouldn't be worth as much. You know, if you go and you race a race against 15 people with only 2 or 3 of the top drivers, you shouldn't be getting as many points necessarily on my scale as if you're going out and racing more people. So that's how we came up with it. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people that aren't very happy with it, but it is what it is. You know, you have some names on here that kind of stood out to me, like Eric Husted. He's all the way up in 16th. I had a lot of people say, "Who's Eric?" Well, if you look it up, Eric's actually done pretty well. He finishes 55% of his races, but he does almost all the best in the desert races, and he's done quite a few of the score races, especially the last year or so. So he's this high because he's earned it. So he's ahead of Bryce Menzies and he's ahead of BJ Baldwin. But if you go and look, the numbers all add up. So Bryce Menzies has only finished 46% of races in the last 3 years that he's done. So, you know, some of the races he did well. He's 15% on the podium and he's won 7%. But at the same time, his finish rate has been low, and he hasn't done all the races. Bryce Menzies doesn't do a lot of the smaller best in the desert races. He doesn't do the score TJ race usually. He doesn't do some of the other races, so that's why he's down lower. Now, the number one person that most everyone's going to ask, where is he, is if we scroll down here. Scroll down and show you guys the rest of the list. So we have Tavo Vidosla. He's down in 41st, but remember, Tavo hasn't raced this year, so he doesn't have any points for this year. And this list goes off a 3-year rolling list. So we take 3 years of data, and it rolls all the time. So that Robbie Gordon, here's the number one person where people are going to be like, why is Robbie Gordon so low? Well, Robbie Gordon is in 45th position. But if you look, he has 0 wins in the last 3 years. He has 0 podiums in the last 3 years, and he's only finished 44% of the races he's done in the last 3 years. Also, Robbie Gordon doesn't do a lot of the best in the desert races. He only does the big races. He does like Parker. He does Vegas to Reno sometimes. Usually doesn't even do Vegas to Reno. He does the Baja 500 and the Baja 1000, but he hasn't finished any of them in the last 3 years, according to the data on here. So, that's he might have finished some, sorry. He hasn't podiumed or he hasn't won any in the last 3 years. He's only finished 44%. So that's why Robbie Gordon's where he is. So, he might be a surprise being this low to everybody, and same with Tavo, but when you look at the data gives you this list. So one thing that I did see, so Gary Magnus, he races only score, but he's ranked pretty high. He's 31st. He finished 100% of the races that he's done in the last 3 years. So that's pretty good. I mean, Gary Magnus races all the score races, and he's finished 100% of them for the last 3 years. That's pretty legit. He's pretty high. He hasn't podiumed or won any of them, but he's finished them all. So he's pretty high. He's the only person on here that's at 100% that actually does a lot of the races. Mark Post is at 100% on here, but he's only done a couple of the races. So it's kind of cool that when you look at this list, and we go down, all the way down, and I'll post this full list on my site when we're done. So it goes all the way down to 147. In order to qualify on the list, you had to be a driver of record for a trophy truck race or trick truck race in Best in the Desert in the last 3 years. So that's where we got these names from. If you've raced a Best in the Desert or score race as the driver of record in the past 3 years, you're on this list. Now, for some people that race together, say, Tavo and Andy are both racing together at the 1,000. We gave them exactly the same points. That was another thing we were discussing. They, some people wanted to only give the driver of record points. And I was like, well, you can't do that because the driver of record only drives half or maybe a third of the Baja 1000. It's not fair to give them all the points and the other guys no points, in my opinion, because if it wasn't for the other guys driving, they wouldn't have got where they did. So I just said, let's give them all exactly the same. They all earned it. So like Troy Herbst and Christian Serapis, they drive together. For all the races that they drove together, they both got the same points. So Troy got points and Christian Serapis got points. Now, for instance, the last race, the Laughlin Desert Challenge, Christian Serapis drove his own truck. So Troy Herbst did not get any points for him, obviously, that race, because that was Christian only. So Christian got the win and the points from that race. So that's how we figured that out. So it's kind of confusing, but I try to explain it the best I can. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and throw them out there real quick. I will try to answer them for you. Also, as soon as this list is, or as soon as I'm done here, I will post this list up on the site, and we can go from there. When you guys have questions, you can ask them on the site. Let's see, what are you guys saying? This will be the starting order. Yes. So the point of this whole list, this list is going to be two things. It's going to be three things. One, it's going to be a fun list that's going to be on Fishgistics that I am going to update after every race. It's kind of fun. Doesn't mean anything on Fishgistics as far as I go. But where it is going to mean something, this list is going to be the invite list for the King of the Hammers race. So Dave is going to take the first 30 or 40 or however many people, and he's going to give them the invite. So the first 30, 40, 50, whatever that number is Dave comes up with, they're going to get the first invites. After they have got their invite, a certain amount of time, everyone, however many spots are still available, the next group of however many is going to get an invite. And it's going to go down the list until Dave's race is full. Now, once his race is full, this list is going to determine the starting order for qualifying at Dave's race. So not for his race, but for the qualifying starting order. So as of today, which this is going to change after the Baja 1000, right now, Andy McMillan would be the number one qualifier at the King of the Hammers race. He would be first off the line. Second off the line would be Rob McCachran. Jason Voss would be third off the line. Then, once they qualify, they're going to start the main event wherever they qualify, obviously. So that's kind of what the point of doing this race was. Dave wanted to have some way to stage his qualifiers rather than just a random draw for your qualify start. He wanted to have something to base it off. So we based it off this data right here, which is pretty cool. And honestly, it's pretty accurate. Like the top guys are really up at the top, minus a couple, such as Robbie Gordon And, some others that haven't done all the races. Tavo, he's not up very high because he hasn't done the races. So, it's kind of cool. It makes you think like, oh, maybe I should do some more races. Maybe if I want to get a better qualifying start for Dave's race, if it matters to you, go out and do the race. So, for instance, this list is going to go through the Baja 1000, and it's going to go through the Pahrump, the last Best in the Desert race. So if I was one of these guys, like say right here, Ryan Arciero, he's 394 and Steve Olagus is 397. Well, if Ryan really wants to qualify before Steve, maybe Ryan could go and do the Pahrump race and hope either Steve doesn't show up at the Pahrump race or he beats Steve at the Pahrump race, and then he's going to get more than 3 points more than Steve probably, and he'd jump up in front of him. So the list is kind of cool. You might see some people doing stuff like that, like Billy Wilson's 3 points behind Dan McMillan. Maybe Billy Wilson will go do the Pahrump race knowing that Dan's not going to, knowing that that'll bump him up in front of him for qualifying. So there's a lot of different factors to the list. I'll scroll down one more time, and then if you guys have any questions, go ahead and type them out there. But that's what this is. Some of the other people on here that are kind of noticeable. So the Ampudias, they kind of switched around driving different drivers of record, and they didn't all drive together. So they're a little bit lower on here. Alan didn't always race with Aaron and so forth, so they're a little bit different. Jerry Zayden and Jerry Welchel, they're different because they weren't both listed on the truck for all the races they did. So stuff like that. Once it gets down here, these people are pretty much just started a race, especially down at the bottom here. Once again, I put everyone on here. So if you started a race, you got some points. So that's why you see these people. Danny Ebert, he started one race in the last 3 years, some little race, and got 2.8 points for it. And that's all he ever did in the last 3 years. So that's why these people, like Brandon Arthur, he did the last race, the Best in Desert race. That's the only race he's done. So he doesn't have that many points. That's why he's down here. So pretty much that's it. I will be posting this list on Facebook. I'll post it on Instagram, and we will be releasing the back-end data sheet after the 1000 once I clean that up a little bit for you guys. So Adam Gunn says, how many points for a win podium? Well, that's what I was just showing in case you guys weren't here earlier. So this is the back-end data sheet. It depends on there's different factors that determine how many points. Not every race is worth the same. So for instance, the 2017 Baja 500, the most points that were awarded were the winner got 59 points. So that was based on the amount of starters and the difficulty of the race. Then the 2017 Vegas to Reno, the winner was awarded 54 points. Same thing. It was based on the amount of starters, which was higher than the Baja 500, but the difficulty of Vegas to Reno is less than the Baja 500, in my opinion, and most people would probably agree. So it was worth a little bit less points than the Baja 500. So that's kind of how it gets, how you get the points. Then the podium position is what these are. So if you finish first, you get a 20% bonus. If you finish second, you get a 15% bonus. Finish third, you get a 5% bonus. So it really pays to be on the podium. And if you go back and you look at the rank data, look at the podium percentage for these guys at the top. Andy, Rob, and Jason are all over 50%. That's pretty crazy. 50%, half the time those guys race, they're on the podium, either 1, 2, or 3. Then look at how, Troy Herbst, he's only on the podium 7% of the time, but he finishes 85% of his races. So that's why he's ranked 4th, because he finishes almost all the races. He just doesn't finish super high all the time. He doesn't have a win, but his finish rate is up there. So that's where he is. So really it adds up. All the math doesn't lie. Abdali, he finishes pretty high, but Abdali doesn't do all the races. He doesn't do Vegas to Reno. He doesn't do, all the Best in the Desert races. He podiums pretty high percentage, but he just doesn't do all the races. So he doesn't have as many points as some of the people who did more races than him. So really, that's what we came up with. I know some people won't like it, but, let's hear it. This is, big thanks to Dave for getting this idea. Also, big thanks to Billy Baruti at Daily Engineering at my work. He actually did all the math behind this and got this data sheet to add all these cells together. And without Billy, I would have never been able to figure this out. So thank you, Billy. And thanks to everybody else. Thanks, Pat, and everybody that helped me try and power rank these. Once again, the only personal opinion part of this is the ranking, but I really think I ranked them pretty much where they should be. Like the Score TJ race right here, for example. There's only 6 cars that did it, and 5 of them finished in 2017. So I'm not going to rank that very high. The winner got 6 points, which is, yeah, it's low, but there's only 6 cars. So who did you really beat? I wanted this ranking to be not just your finished position, but who you really beat and what the race was that you did. To me, winning the Baja 1000 is the number 1 in the world, and it's worth way more than any other race. So you win the 2017 full pull 1,300-mile Baja 1000, you get 87 points. Like, you win Tonopah, you get 15 points. Yeah, it's way less, but you know what? Who races Tonopah? You get 16 starters and you get 12 to finish, and you go 250 miles. Where you go 1,300 miles and you got 33 of the top guys in the world, you should get way more points. That's just the way it is, So, yeah, sorry if the production has been a little low at Daily Engineering the last few days. We've been trying to sort this list out, and every time we talk to somebody has a different opinion, so I tried to mix and mesh with everybody and make it is what it is. But, I've never seen anybody have a list like this before, and like I said, thanks to Dave Cole for the idea of doing this list. I think it's pretty cool. No matter what you do, someone is not going to like it. But you know what? It's the Fishgistics list, so I really don't care if you like it or not. It's my list. You can come up with your own. You want to come up with your own, and you want to post your own, and let's see whose is different. Let's compare. I think it's kind of fun. One of you guys might have a really good idea for how we should do something with the points. Let me know. We're open for it. This is new. This is evolving. It's going to change. If after, the Baja 1000, we figure out a really good way to rank everything based on math, we will, because right now the power ratio is based on opinion, which it should be, And yeah, like Pat just said, nobody can argue with the top 3. Like, yeah, if you change one of the best in the desert races to be worth a little more, maybe Jason Voss jumps up a spot. Or you make one of the Baja races worth more, maybe Rob Mack, jumps up. No matter what I played with it, I never got Rob to go to 1. I did get Jason to go to 1, and Rob at 2nd, Andy in 3. I got all these 3 mixed, but it just depended on which race you gave more power to. So I'm pretty happy with the way we did it now. And, yeah, we're going to go with it. So thanks, everybody, for tuning in. And, yeah, if you guys want to send your lawsuits over, I'll have my lawyer on it to hear your complaints. And let me know what you guys think. I'll have this posted up on the site as soon as we're done with this video. All right, we'll see you guys all down in Baja. We are headed down Thursday, me and Travis Clark. Thanks to Travis Clark also. He was a part of making this whole list happen. But we're going down to Baja. We're going to go have some fun. And if you don't like this list, come find me in Baja, and you can tell me why you don't like it. See you guys.